Hi everyone and welcome back to JanQuest, it's Dan here and today we're bringing you another top 10 list as we look to launch our first special set of the Scarlet and Violet era, Scarlet and Violet 151. So 151 looks to not only be a really cool set, bringing back lots of nostalgia for the older fans of the franchise, myself included, who grew up with the Kanto region of red and blue, but it also looks really playable too, which is great to see from a special set. Also an interesting point is that the Pokemon cards in the set are actually in Pokédex order of the original 151 Pokemon found in the Kanto region, rather than being grouped by types like they are in regular sets. So without further delay, let's dive into the top 10 cards as chosen by JanQuest. In at number 10, we've got Zapdos EX, and that comes in as a nice starting point. Being a 200 HP basic lightning type, it could find its way into the increasing popularity of Miraidon EX decks. With its Voltaic Float ability, it grants free retreat with a lightning energy attached, making it a nice pivot. And with Flaffy, an electric generator, getting that energy on early game is relatively easy to take advantage of. This energy acceleration also makes it easier to utilise its multi-shot lightning attack for free electric energy, doing 120 to the active and 90 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already has damage counters on, making it a good sniper with finishing potential for weak and retreated Pokemon, possibly taking multiple prize KOs. At number 9 we have Cycling Road, which is a great new stadium addition to the current meta, with it being able to fulfill various roles that certain decks may need. It allows you to once per turn discard a basic energy from hand and then draw one card. At first this may seem underwhelming, but its simplicity is what makes it great. If you're a deck that wants energy in the discard to accelerate like Guardy does, or with Palkia's Star Portal V-Star ability, Cycling Road helps you get there faster. Or if you need extra draw, or you're playing a speed deck with recovery options, because who isn't playing Super Odd now, this helps you dig further through the deck each turn. At number 8 we have Ditto. So if you've ever had those games or played those decks where your setup relies on starting with that one specific Pokemon in the active, then Ditto's got you covered. With its Transform Start ability, on your first turn, if Ditto is in the active, you may choose a basic Pokemon from your deck, except Ditto, then discard Ditto and put the chosen Pokemon in its place. This is a phenomenal ability which guarantees you the setup you need, with Ditto acting as a 5th, 6th, 7th or even 8th copy of a basic Pokemon. Even if you don't have what you need in your starting hand, if you have Ditto, you have it now. Plus, if you're running switching cards, say in Lost Box for example, you can utilise multiple Ditto by switching them in and out of the active, guaranteeing you start with the correct amount of Comfy for example. At number 7 we have Giovannis Charisma. With Giovannis Charisma we have our first support card of the set. Not only accelerates your own energy, but also disrupts your opponent in the process. It states that you may put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. If you do, attach an energy from your hand to your active Pokemon. We personally think this card is great as it allows for a second attachment for turn, and if you're not KOing your opponent, you're at least slowing them down by removing an energy. Which is important to note that this can be special energy too, as it doesn't specify basic energy. There are a lot of 2 energy basic attackers who would benefit from this going second turn 1 and being able to KO the active because of it. Chempao springs to mind, or how about the legendary beast, just to name a few. At number 6 we have Snatch Arm. Snatch Arm looks to be a great and frustrating disruption item, allowing the user to look at their opponent's hand, choose a Pokemon they find there, and put it at the bottom of their opponent's deck. This provides great disruption at any stage of a game, either preventing setup early on or evolution from occurring at the later stages. All this while gaining an insight into your opponent's hand, allowing you to assess and then potentially choose to either Iono or Judge for even greater disruption if needed. At number 5 we have Safety Goggles. This is a really simple yet effective tool card, but when attached to a basic Pokemon removes their weakness. We're sure this will see a lot of play as the meta develops to prevent easy one-hit KOs and add durability to decks that would otherwise go into an unfavourable matchup. At number 4 we have Alakazam EX. Alakazam comes in here for one main reason, and it's not its Mind Jack attack, but for 2 colourless energy does 90 damage plus 30 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is actually really strong in its own right, as it hits for a maximum of 240, or 220 with a DTE attached, which is that magic number for Pokemon V and basic EXs, but rather it's for its dimensional hand attack, that for 2 psychic energy does 120 damage, but can be used from the bench. So that's correct, Alakazam EX can attack from the bench, which is insanely good for several reasons. Firstly, it gives you an option of a third attack, depending on what you have in the active. You may not have enough energy, or the damage output may not be strong enough. Maybe you can't switch out, but Alakazam can support here from the bench. Secondly, it allows protection from return attacks as it's on the bench, which can be solidified by playing Manaphy to prevent sniping as well, protecting your 2 prize attacker. This leads on to the third point, that it can sit behind a wall. So imagine being able to snipe your opponent from your bench, or sat behind a 1 prize wall such as Klefki and shut off all basic Pokemon abilities in the process, forcing your opponent to waste a supporter to boss you up, in which case a KO is unlikely with a HP of 310. We're not sure how much play it will see, but we're confident that such potential will be tested a lot. At number 3, we have Erika's Invitation, which has all the makings of a great card that has the potential to become a staple in many decks. It allows you to look at your opponent's hand, put a basic Pokemon you find there onto the bench, then switch that Pokemon with their active. With this you get an insight into what your opponent may be lining up for their next turn, allowing you to prevent and counter it. You then get to gust a basic Pokemon of your choice to the active, providing they had it in hand, and have the bench space available, which will hopefully either get stuck there preventing your opponent to play for a turn or 2, or will give you an easy KO that turn. This can be game winning or swing the game in your favour if you're on the back foot, especially in situations when you know your opponent has a basic in hand and you can take advantage of it. Maybe you've already played the aforementioned Snatch Arm and already know what they have in hand, or maybe you saw them retrieve it via a support or item in their last turn. The only downside we can see to this card is if you play it and your opponent doesn't have a basic in hand, you run the risk of losing your supporter for a turn. However, the reward can be fantastic if it hits. In at number 2 is Blastoise EX. Now I may have a slight bias towards this card with my love for water decks, and Blastoise for that matter, but Blastoise EX looks like it could be the real deal. With 330 HP and its ability Solid Shell, which allows it to take 30 less damage from attacks after applying weakness and resistance, makes it a force to be reckoned with. Supported by its Twin Cannons attack, which costs 2 water energy to use, it allows the user to discard up to 2 water energies from hand, dealing 140 damage for each energy discarded this way, hitting hard for a total of 280, which as we know one-shots all Pokemon V, V-Star, basic EXs and the majority of Stage 1 EXs. This attack has me making comparisons to Ice Rider VMAX's Max Lance, where you discard the energy from the Pokemon instead of from hand, but needed Choice Belt to hit the same numbers. I personally had some success with Ice Rider, making several top 3 League Challenge finishes. You can check out those videos on the channel too, but we think Blastoise can be just as good as this, if not better. It has strong support with the likes of Irida, who can not only be used to grab Blastoise and Candy to evolve straight up to Squirtle, but once Blastoise is set, Irida can be utilised to grab cards such as Energy Search, or Retrieval to get the energy in hand ready to discard for the attack, or even Superior Energy Retrieval, so you have energy left over to discard for next turn, or to use in a concealed cards play with your supporting Radiant Greninja. Combine this further by using Lake Acuity as your stadium of choice, allowing Blastoise to take an additional 20 less damage from attacks, providing you have water energy attached at the time, which you should as you're discarding from hand. This means that with its Solid Shell ability, your opponent has to deal 380 damage to take a KO on a full health Blastoise EX. We think Blastoise has so much potential, it's definitely one we'll be testing and hoping to see emerge as a new meta-relevant archetype. And in top spot we have Mew EX. Mew made it to our number 1 spot as we believe it to be the most versatile card in the set, but we believe will be teched into most if not all decks in some capacity. Its restart ability ensures you always have cards in hand, allowing you to once per turn draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. While not as good as Bibarel's Industrious Incisors, which allows you to draw until you have 5 in hand, it needs to be bared in mind that Mew is a basic, allowing you to access his ability instantly, and in a similar fashion to Bibarel, it's not limited to once per turn, but rather once per Mew per turn, meaning you can use multiple restart abilities per turn providing you have multiple Mew in play. Its genome hacking attack also has an interesting potential for free colourless energy, meaning it can be teched into any deck as previously mentioned, allows you to copy one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attack and use it as this one. It's important to note here that you don't need the matching energy for the attack you choose to copy either. So some applications of this versatility we can think of include copying Radiant Greninja in the Lost Box matchup and using Moonlight Shuriken to KO 2 of their Comfy, or copying Cresselia in the Guardy matchup. It can also be powered up in a variety of ways in various decks, such as Archeops, Guardy, Flaffy, DTE attachment and Raihan, to name a few, which just adds to its increasing versatility. Mew also has free retreat, which makes it a fantastic pivot. And there you have it, Jank Quest breakdown of the top 10 cards coming from Pokemon 151. We hope you enjoyed hearing our views, and we look forward to hearing yours in the comments. Don't forget, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe the channel. We really appreciate the support, which you can now also do by using our affiliate link to Magic Madhouse when purchasing new products. Just scan the barcode on screen or follow the link in the description. And until next time, take care.